Well, the 2025-26 season has got off to a great start for the Chicago Bulls, now sitting at 3-0 on the season. The Bulls do have a matchup today against the Sacramento Kings that, despite only being 1-3, have put up some big performances. So we're going to talk a little bit about that game. Plus, we're going to talk about the two stats that have been really good for the Chicago Bulls and two concerning stats for the Chicago Bulls. We're going to get into all that and more right after this. What's going on, Bulls fans? Welcome to another episode of Chicago Bulls Central, your number one spot for everything Chicago Bulls related. I'm the host there, Haize, but more importantly, you guys can follow the channel at Bulls Central Pod on every social media platform we happen to be on. With that said, let's go ahead and get into this content for today, y'all. And Elias Schuster over at Bleacher Nation had an amazing article in which he breaks down two things really going well for the Chicago Bulls and two things that we should be pretty concerned about. And so I want to look at those two things and kind of give my own take on them. And so we'll reference the article, we'll also give my own thoughts on it. So to start off with the good, right? The two promising stats. The first one that Elias Schuster has listed here is the 69.6 assist percentage. Giggity. When you look at this, right, there's something that we, like yesterday's episode, I talked about the unselfishness of the Chicago Bulls team, how we have 6 players averaging double figures. We had 8 players scoring double figures against the Atlanta Hawks. And the Bulls moving the ball around has been one of the best aspects of it. Is the fact that this group, a different leading scorer in every game so far, right? Big performances from players. You look at the win against the Hawks, for example, that came down to the wire. There were several players. Everybody that checked into the game made a big impact play at some point in that fourth quarter that helped the Bulls win the game, whether it was Patrick Williams' defense on Kristaps Porzingis, or whether it was Nikola Vucevic stripping the ball from Kristaps Porzingis and playing really solid rim defense, deterring shots at the rim, even though he didn't register a block, those type of things, right? But the offensive side of the ball, especially for the Bulls, to not be ranked overall very highly on the offensive side of the ball, as much as the Bulls' defense has been great, the Bulls have the 21st offensive rating in the game of basketball. But the fact that it could be anybody on any given night, and this team, the ball does not stick with players on this team, that is not only added to the play style that the Bulls have as far as, liking to get up in pace and things like that, but it's just helped overall. But that is not only, contributed to the Chicago Bulls and their pace of play and those type of things. Like when you spread the ball around, you get everybody involved. And that's been a big part of this team, right? I think that when you look at this team, it's the fact that everybody has an equal opportunity. Every single player, as long as you hit open shots, as long as you're moving without the ball, which is another good thing we'll talk about here at some point. But when you have players that like Josh Giddey and Trey Jones, that they carry the majority of the creation, right? But it's not just those guys. You have Vooch, who's a really good passer. You have Ayo Dosunmu, who's a really good passer. Kevin Huerter has been a solid passer, throughout this season. We've seen more opportunities for even Modest Buzelis to have the ball up. Like somebody brought up, right? I think it was Kelder, actually, in the Discord. He brought up once that how, Josh Giddey's not always bringing the ball up. And he asked the question like, well, does that mean that Josh Giddey's playing point guard? I'm like, yeah, but when with the way that teams try to disrupt players like Josh Giddey and even Trey Jones for that matter, is to press them, to keep them from, to disrupt, trying to force the ball out their hands, things like that, force them to give it up. When you have a team full of players that are really good passers and that move the ball around, it just makes it harder for the defense to set in. And that's what manipulation, that's what all those things are built around. When you look at moving the ball around, moving off the ball, the ideal behind all of that is to manipulate the defense. If you're moving the ball, if you're moving without the ball, if players are moving, what that does is that means that the defense has to move to guard those players. And at any point in time between moving off the ball and moving the ball, that creates lanes for players to get to the rim. And that's really good thing. And so, the Bulls and this passing that they have has been really solid. And the number of ball handlers and the number of above average passes that we have on this team have been evident to start the season. Now, defenses are going to start adjusting to that. And you're going to try to put a zone or a hybrid zone in there against the Chicago Bulls. We've seen that be something that they've used in the past. The Bulls haven't always necessarily counteracted the best, right? But the thing that's different, that makes it different for this team, is the movement off the ball. We are moving more without the ball than any other time in Billy Donovan's tenure here as a head coach. And that's been really good. But like I said, part of moving without the ball, it comes down to manipulating the defense and getting open lanes. And that gets us to the next positive stat for the Bulls. The Bulls, 41.8% of the Bulls shots are at the rim. Again, 41.8% of the Bulls shots are at the rim. I don't think that can go understated how important that is for a team. As much as this is a three-point shooting league, and you do have to be able to hit the three to keep teams honest because of the math problem, right? But when you look at this team and the way that they are between the restricted area, between the paint, the Bulls, like so much of the Bulls offense is coming in those areas. And then even mid-range, 6% is coming from that. The way that the Bulls attack the paint, it gives them high percentage shots, and they're doing it super frequently, which then puts pressure on the defense, which then, guess what? It opens up the three-pointer for you as the game goes on, and that's a really good thing to look at. When you look at the teams in the NBA that have a higher percentage at the rim, it's the Spurs, it's the Magic. That's it. And the Magic do it because they're such a bad shooting team that they have to attack the rim, right? So when you look at the Spurs and the Magic, they have Paolo Banchero, Franz, and then they got Wemby on the Spurs. And Wemby's averaging over 30 points per game, so it's going to have huge marks when it comes down to that. So far, the Bulls are averaging 56 points in the paint per game. 56 points in the paint per game. If you guys remember correctly, at the start of last season, we were giving up almost 60 points in the paint per game. We are now scoring that almost per game. That is a really excellent rate. And yeah, the three-pointer eventually has to come along. We know that Kobe's going to come back. He's going to help with that as well. The Bulls cutting more is now opening up to that, and that's something that's definitely there for what it's worth. The Bulls right now started the year with the 7th highest points per possession off cuts. That again, moving without the ball. This is why, for people that have been around this podcast for so long, I have talked so heavily about the Chicago Bulls moving without the ball, because when you do that, it allows you to attack the paint. It allows you to get into those actions, and that's really good. The sheer number of shots that the Bulls are getting at the rim, it just, again, it helps your ball handlers. When you look at that. So when you look at Kobe White, Josh Giddey, Audisumu, Trey Jones, that all create off cutting and all create off drives, right? The Bulls may even lead the league in drives per game when it's when it's said and done. Right now, the Bulls are averaging 63.3 drives at the rim per game, which is the most in the NBA, period. And that's without Kobe White, who I know people like to think of Kobe as this Ben Gordon-esque three-point shooter. That's not ever what Kobe White's really been. Well, 2 years he was coming off the bench, he was that, right? Mainly to try to stretch the floor. But Kobe is not just a stand at the three-point line, coming off screen shooter. He gets into rhythm by driving to the rim. And so the Bulls averaging 63 drives per game, leading the NBA without Kobe, who last year finished the year at almost 16 drives per game. Like, that's what you're looking at. Like, this is going to be a team that creates from the inside out. And when you do that while you're still a high-paced team, that puts so much pressure on defense. That's why you're seeing the Chicago Bulls free throw rate take such a step up than what it was last season, because they're not settling for threes in transition anymore. They're actually getting it done and getting in there. The Bulls, as it stands right now, have a 31% free throw rate. You look at that compared to last season on the year. The Chicago Bulls had a 21% free throw rate last season. What does that mean? That means that the Bulls have they have increased their free throw rate by almost 10% in the early part of this year. That's amazing to see for this Bulls team. That's what you love to see. So again, assists and shots at the rim. The fact that the Bulls are tops of the league in those two areas, those go hand in hand. And that's why the Bulls have been able to thrive so much so far this season. Now, let's flip it. Let's look at the two concerning stats that Elias Schuster has here for the Chicago Bulls. 26.3% opponent three-point percentage. Now, when you look at that, and Elias points this out, like, why isn't that a good number, right? It should seem like a really good number that opposing teams are shooting the ball 26.3% from downtown against the Chicago Bulls. But then when you factor in that we faced off against the Pistons and the Magic with only 3 games for us, they both shot terrible right now. They combined for 10 of 48 from downtown, Orlando shot 3 for 24, which is definitely going to affect your rate a lot, right? But these are already two of the teams that are not going to be the best three-point shooting teams of this season. Now, when you look at it as well, Chicago Bulls opponents have shot the ball 27% on wide open threes this season, which is the Chicago Bulls have allowed the fewest number of wide open threes because we're contesting the three-point line, but that's not going to hold up. And I mean, if it does, it's an amazing mark, right? But as it stands right now, we haven't really seen how this team gets when a team gets super hot from three-point range. And in the modern NBA, you're going to face off against teams that are going to get hot from three-point range. How do the Bulls deal with that? That's something that we're going to have to see right now, right? So we'll see what happens with that one. But the Bulls' three-point shooting defense, I think they've been attacking it really well. We just haven't had teams have success. Now, if this maintains for 10, 12 games, then maybe we can then start saying, hey, it's just the Bulls' defense. But considering we're about to face off against the Sacramento Kings and Zach LaVine has been on a tear, averaging over 30 points, I think we'll get tested with that sooner rather than later, right? So we'll see with that one. The Bulls haven't necessarily limited the wide open looks, but we've been attacking it enough. But we got to see how that's going to go for the Bulls as the season goes on and how they adjust to that. But again, great article from Elias Schuster. The last negative stat that he has there for the Bulls is the 18.7 turnovers. Now, that comes with playing a faster pace, and that comes with also the way that the Bulls move the ball around so frequently. The turnovers are going to be high, right? They're going to be higher than normal. But at the same time, you cannot allow the second most turnovers in the league because like we talked about in yesterday's episode, what does that do? That allows or gives opportunity for opposing teams to get in transition, to get easy buckets in transition, to attack the rim. When you're giving up those turnovers, you do not want to have self-inflicted wounds. That's what turnovers are. They are self-inflicted wounds. So I would love to see the Bulls. I know that with being a faster paced team, the turnovers are going to be a little bit higher. I would like to see those turnovers get down more between 12 and 15 per game. I think that that's a sweet spot. If the Bulls can get between 12 and 15 a game, I think that that's going to help this team quite considerably personally. But we shall see how that's going to work out for this team. But it's just something to look out for. I think that you gotta watch out for that for this team, and we'll see what the Bulls end up doing with it. But overall, that's the two positive stats, the two negative stats that Elias Schuster has pointed out here for the Chicago Bulls. And we'll see how that continues to go for the season for the team. But with that said, the Bulls do have a matchup today. They face off against the Sacramento Kings. And the Kings are coming into this game 1-3. But don't allow the record to fool you. They have put up some really good performances over that and have played some teams pretty close over those 4 games. In Phoenix, they lost by 4 points. Utah, they won by 1 point. Los Angeles against the Lakers, they lost by 7. But that took a huge performance from Austin Reeves to get them there. Against Oklahoma City last night, they only lost by 6, right? So that's something that you're looking at for this Kings team, right? It's just the way that they are performing. Zach LaVine is right now killing it. He's coming in on a heater. He's averaging 31 points per game as Zach LaVine. He's coming off 3 games straight of scoring 30 or more. So far, he's shooting 53% from the field and 35% from 3 is Zach LaVine. A big part of what the Bulls are going to have to do today is they're going to have hope that Ayo Dosunmu, Isaac Okoro, that those guys can guard Zach LaVine. Because if they don't, it's going to be a long night, right? And for what it's worth, DeMar DeRozan is looking more mortal than ever before. He's averaging only 19 points per game so far in the season. He is shooting above 50% from the field. He's shooting 37% from 3 as well. He actually shot 50% from 3 last night. But it's so important to be able to disrupt those two guys when it comes to the Sacramento Kings. Now, the Kings have some injuries, right? Keegan Murray is out, but so they've been running kind of non-traditional lineups when it comes down to it. You want to be prepared for that one. But much like the Bulls, the Kings have 6 players that are averaging double figures. You got Russell Westbrook coming off the bench for them, averaging in double figures. You have Domantas Sabonis averaging in double figures for them as well. Dennis Schroeder, Malik Monk, and then, of course, DeMar and Zach. So you're going to have to play solid team defense, which is something that the Bulls have already really been trying to do quite consistently, is play that team defense and lock in. But they're going to have to really do that when it comes down to it. But let's look at the numbers for the Kings, right? The Kings are coming into this with a negative net rating of 4.8. which is 21st in the NBA. You compare that to the Chicago Bulls, the Bulls have a positive net rating of +7, which is 5th overall in the NBA. The Kings offense also has not been the best, 26th ranked offense in the NBA at 109. The Bulls defense, for example, is 105, We're the first. We're the number one. We're back to number one defensive rating in basketball. Flip that and look at the Kings on defense. They are 11th, surprisingly, in defensive rating in the season at 114. The Bulls' offense, of course, is 21st. So this is going to come down to how the offenses execute and who makes the right defensive plays, especially down the stretch of this game. The Bulls have been a lot more efficient of a team. The Bulls are 13th in true shooting percentage on the season at 59.2, whereas the Sacramento Kings are coming in at 55.7. So, those are things that you're looking at for. Effective field goal shooting percentage, the Bulls are 12th, the Kings are 16th, so they're around the same mark there. But one of the things that the Kings don't have that the Bulls do, the Kings are a very isolation-heavy team. No shit. You got DeMar DeRozan and Zach LaVine on your team. We've been there, right? They're 25th in assist percentage. So they're a team that is going to go into isolation ball a lot, which means that if you go into zones, if you have own your one-on-one individual matchups, you're going to be able to really disrupt what they do offensively. And that's what the Bulls really have to try to come in here and do. They also are 11th in turnover percentage. Again, they're not turning the ball over a lot because they don't pass a lot because they're isolation heavy team. So the opportunities for the Bulls to get turnovers and get out in transition won't necessarily be there as much as it has against other teams. We'll see how the Bulls can force that. But where the Bulls can definitely thrive at here is rebounding. The Kings are the 29th ranked rebounding team in the league, meaning they just don't rebound a lot. When you look at Sabonis and him not necessarily being 100%, they're missing Keegan Murray, they're running non-traditional lineups. That's where this Bulls team has to absolutely dominate tonight against the Kings, is on the glass. That gets you second chance points. That gets you extra offensive possessions. If you're defensive rebounding really well, you have to be able to do that. And in this game specifically, I want to see the Bulls attack the offensive glass. The Kings are a bad defensive rebounding team. They're 22nd in the NBA in defensive rebound percentage. The Bulls are 16th in offensive rebound percentage. The Bulls can absolutely feast here when it comes down to their opportunities to get those rebounds and then get extra possessions. Now, the Kings are not a good defensive team, but they're sneaky. The Kings actually have the second highest steal percentage in the NBA, surprisingly enough. You got to watch out for that, especially for the Bulls that are a turnover-prone team. You have to watch out for that when it comes down to it. If the Kings do get turnovers against you, which is something that we just talked about in the last segment, for a team that's isolation-heavy and their offense isn't necessarily the best in the league so far, that gets them easy buckets, especially when you're playing with somebody like a Zach LaVine who can get out in transition, or Russell Westbrook on that team who can get out in transition. Those type of players, you got to watch out for those guys. And we'll see if the Bulls can do that. Now, the Kings are a very top-heavy team when you look at their minutes distribution. They don't play a lot of players very consistently. The Bulls' depth can also be a weapon here for the team today. Wear that team down, especially considering they're not a great defensive team or a great offensive team. Throwing those waves that the Bulls do at teams could definitely play off into helping this team be, have the advantage against the Sacramento Kings. Don't let the 1-3 record fool you. This is not going to be an easy game for the Bulls if they don't execute in the places that matter the most. We just pointed out where the Bulls can attack this team at, how they can get the easy buckets, where the Kings are weak at. This all comes down to scheming, coaching, and preparedness for your players on your team. You got to be prepared. You got to be locked in. You got to be ready for this one. If you're not, it's going to be ugly. It is going to be ugly. So let's see if the Bulls can keep up their pace. We'll see if the Bulls can keep up. Domantas Sabonis against Nikola Vucevic, that's the type of center that Vuce actually guards pretty well. We'll see. And again, because they don't have a lot of traditional size either, this could be a game where we actually see more of Patrick Williams as the small ball center. Their backup center is Drew Eubanks, who is 6'10", 245 pounds, but that's not tremendous size to where Patrick Williams can't come in and guard those players. So, we're trying to see that for this team as well. How does Billy Donovan play the matchups? How does he play them for his advantage? That's going to be a big thing. The Bulls' depth has to be a weapon for them in every game that they play in this season, especially a game like this against the Sacramento Kings team. Can the Bulls do it? I think that they can, but I'm not going to predict a win for the Bulls because, again, either way, I don't predict wins and losses. I just like to talk about what you need to do in the game, and we'll see if the Bulls come into this one prepared at the level that they need to be prepared at to get this win. The Bulls start off 4-0 today. Start off 4-0 with a win today. It would be major, and it would be exciting to see for this Bulls team. Let's see if the Bulls can get it done. But thanks for tuning in, guys. That's my time for today. You guys can let me know how you feel down below. Make sure you guys are following us at Bull Central Pod. You can send us any feedback, questions, comments, concerns. bullcentralpod@gmail.com. Lastly, if you want to leave a text message and or voicemail for the mailbag, the number to do so, 773-270-2799. We are the #1 spot for everything Chicago Bulls related, but that is thanks to you, lovely and beautiful people. And like I like to end every episode on, go Bulls. Love you guys. See you right if you can, y'all. Peace.
This has been a presentation of the Break Media.